Now, rescue workers on the island of Sulawesi in Indonesia say they can hear people, but they can't reach them. It's now 3 days since that earthquake and tsunami, and efforts to find survivors are being severely hampered by the lack of the kind of heavy equipment needed to move rubble on this scale. We know the death toll is already close to 850. Unfortunately, it's certain to rise because some areas have not even been reached. Now, this graphic shows us very clearly that this 7.5 magnitude quake struck close to the city of Palu. In fact, the fishing region of Donggala was the closest to the epicenter, and more than 300,000 people live there. And rural areas like this very much remain in danger from landslides. The tsunami that followed the quake brought waves as high as 6 meters. I can't believe you haven't seen some of the most striking images like this mobile phone footage showing the surge coming in and simply wiping away the buildings on the shore. We also have these pictures giving an idea of the power of that surge and of the earthquake. Huge piece of infrastructure simply tangled up, boats dumped onto the earth. And then these drone pictures also show you how widespread and how comprehensive the damage has been. And unfortunately, all of that means that this work now also has to be done. Mass graves being dug, and those involved are being told to prepare a space for at least 1,300 bodies. While people who have survived this horror are now living in tents, many are too scared to go into buildings for fear they'll fall down. Also, large aftershocks continue to happen, and we know there's not enough food, drinking water, fuel, and in many cases there's no power at all, all of which means you're getting things like this, big queues for fuel. This isn't just for vehicles, this is for generators as well, for people who just want to get some power into their homes. We also know shops are, well, it's difficult to know what verb you would use. Some people are calling this looting, other people are being kinder about it. The police seem to be allowing people to go into shops and help themselves because of the pressing nature of the situation. I also wanted to show you the pictures we have of this particular hotel. Now, we know it wasn't until late Sunday that someone was pulled out of this hotel alive. That's 50 hours after the quake. Unfortunately, it's believed dozens of people could be stuck inside. Well, as you can see from this map, that hotel very close to the mouth of the river in Palu, so it had taken the brunt of what happened. The whole area has been heavily damaged. Let me play you a rescue worker who's there, followed by the owner of the hotel.
They just screamed, "Help, here, here, here." We just followed the voice. It was at night time. It was dark. There was no light. We only had the light from our matches and lighter.
I quickly asked for heavy equipment to help with the evacuation, because doing it manually is impossible, especially with the building collapsed like this.
Well, here's a graphic of the Pacific Ocean. This is the so-called Ring of Fire with Australia and Indonesia there. It's on this Ring of Fire that you will find 70% of the world's volcanoes, also 90% of the world's earthquakes happen there as well. Now, as you'd expect, Indonesia, being on the Ring of Fire, has systems in place for when earthquakes happen. But the BBC has found out that none of the tsunami detection buoys worked this time. Well, next, let me play you Indonesia's finance minister talking to the BBC and trying to shift the blame for these buoys not working away from the issue of budget cuts.
I think we are going to continue evaluate and improve. From what is being mentioned, this is not about a small budget cut in this case, and we are not supposed to shift this issue into that, because it's not going to create a better way for the country like Indonesia to support.
Well, the BBC's Rebecca Henschke was one of the first foreign journalists to reach the city of Palu, and this is what she's seen.
People here say they only had a few minutes warning after that strong quake on Friday to flee to higher ground when they saw huge waves coming in. Those that could survive did so by clinging onto trees and buildings. There's no power here and very little fresh food or fresh water. So people are saying that they desperately need to get aid in. For the people who are managing to get into this city, road travel is very difficult. There's been landslides in the hills up here. There's now almost no petrol in Palu, which is also making rescue efforts difficult. Community members here say that there are bodies still amongst this rubble, people who are still missing, and you can smell decomposing bodies here, but they don't have the energy or resources to do anything about it.
There's more information on the tsunami and earthquake on the BBC News app.